The Hybrid Luna, Chapter 3, Jane Doe, POV. 3 meager days passed before the caseworker came knocking to do a wellness inspection. I was hanging freshly washed bedsheets on the laundry line near Shelley's garden when I heard tires crunching on the gravel. My shoulders immediately tensed as I moved to the corner of the house and peered around towards the driveway just as his car came to a stop. I pulled my head back before I could be seen and went back to my assigned task. I kept my back to the forest as I finished and took the empty basket back inside. "What can I do for you, Daniel?" Shelley asked as she wiped her hands on a kitchen towel. I slid the basket back into its designated spot between the washer and dryer. I stayed crouched down, listening. "I'm here to check on Jane," he replied. "That's not her name," Shelley snapped at him irritably. "Did she tell you?" Daniel asked. I could hear the hopeful excitement in his tone from here, and I didn't bother trying to stop myself from rolling my eyes. "No," Shelley said, and left it at that. Daniel sighed and slumped into a chair at the table. I was hopeful that maybe she would open up to someone of her own species. I was encouraged with the exchange I saw when I first brought her here. I watched him pinch the bridge of his nose. Her own species? What the fuck does that even mean? "Then you set yourself up for disappointment," Shelley said with a chuckle, as she settled herself in a chair across from him. "What can I do for you, Daniel?" she asked again. He opened his briefcase and pulled a stack of papers out and passed them across to her. She began skimming through them as Daniel continued. "I was able to get Judge Andrews to agree to therapy on Packlands with Dr. Rowden. So her schedule is in there and her next court appearance is 6 months from now. Hopefully by that time we will have more demographic information. Her fingerprints aren't in any database. The lab is running DNA right now, but we both know they won't find anything." Daniel sat there quietly staring at the tabletop as if it held all the answers he was searching for. After a few quiet moments, he snapped his briefcase closed and stood. "See you soon, Shelley," he said as he made his way to the door and left. "You can come in now," Shelley said without glancing up from the papers in front of her. I froze, unsure if she was talking to me or not. Ugh, of course she's talking to me. There's no one else here. The terrible triplets haven't been back since the first morning. I stood and approached the table, sinking down in the seat next to the one Daniel had vacated moments ago. Shelley put the papers into one neat stack, tapped them on the table a few times to align the edges, and passed them over to me. "We both know you're an adult, or damn close to it. I don't believe in sugarcoating or hiding information. See for yourself," she explained as she stood and went back to the stove. The packet was full of a bunch of legal jargon, and I could only decipher every other word. I came across a sheet full of dates and times. Great, this must be my mandated therapy. I groaned internally as I realized the first appointment was in just a few hours. Fan-fucking-tastic. I followed Shelley to an unattached garage/shed towards the back of her property. She pulled the door open and I spotted a Jeep in the middle of boxes and tools. The Jeep didn't have much dust, but it also didn't have a windscreen, roof, or doors. There were 4-point harnesses in place of seatbelts. Cautiously, I approached the passenger seat. The tires were massive, coming up to my hip. This looked more like a toy and not an everyday commuter vehicle. I followed Shelley's lead and jumped up into the seat. I watched her as she slowly hooked herself into the harness. I could see she was slowing down and exaggerating her movements because she knew I was watching. I appreciated that she made these nonverbal efforts to communicate with me, as if she could sense how broken I was, without me having to explain. I mimicked her movements, and once we were both strapped safely in, she fired up the engine and pulled out. Instead of turning towards the road at the front of the house, she cut the wheel hard to the left and made her way down the tree line until a rough trail came into view. The ride took about 15 minutes. It was obvious that Shelley knew this poor excuse for a road like the back of her hand. She avoided the larger holes and splashed into the puddles with giddy laughs. By the time we exited the forest, we were both covered in speckles of mud. A wide grin spread across her face, making her look even younger. "That never gets old," she muttered to herself. I looked around and realized that we had emerged into a large cleared section of the forest. I could see houses and shops and people walking around, passing the time peacefully. Shelley continued past the busy streets until she came to the bottom of a hill. She pulled to a stop outside of a brown brick building with the word clinic spelled out in metal letters above the door. Directly across from the clinic, I could see a huge structure sitting on top of the hill. Mansion wasn't adequate. This place looked like a massive hotel or resort. I could see people moving around the grounds, but they were too far away to hear what they were saying. I reached down and unclasped the harness before following Shelley inside.